Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show. Did you say that?
Where is 10th man?
I don't know.
I'm here. I was just getting tea.
He's the C guy. See?
See, guy.
Oh, I see him now.
I see too. See? See, senor.
Quit making waves, Neil. Good morning.
Yes, there's some mainstream fakery going on or something. Where is everybody from Discord?
I'm telling you, the Black Swan, when it came out, had them initially poo-pooing it and downplaying it. Then they tried to fight it. Then they got confused. Now it's so devastating prior to them admitting it that they've seen everyone come here get demolished trying to challenge it. You're not going to beat geometry.
Oh, I was kind of hoping somebody would try to argue inflating and deflating Earth. I was looking forward to that.
Or in other words, concede they require geometry, therefore tangent, and just assert that the tangent might change on a given day.
Yeah, over like time too. So it's like the Earth's breathing, you know.
Yeah, I don't like that argument. I've got to be honest.
You mean the Earth is not breathing?
Well, you can't have their radius values fixed for a reason. They've got a fixed value for where the equator is, and it's lined up to what's happening above our heads. You know, the fact that they've got a presupposition of hemispheres and a set radius value that's their model. I mean, it's set in stone, both metaphorically and literally for anybody who reifies it. But you can't change that value. It's not like you can inflate the sphere. Once it's beyond the geometric limitations, that's the end of the geometry. There's no other. You can't sugarcoat the Black Swan argument, basically.
Well, not 2015, they were showing us pictures of Earth from outer space, a violation of the second law, and the continent of the United States was bigger. And then the next one, it was smaller. So it is breathing, Nathan. Come on.
I've seen them justify that away with the focal length claimed and all the rest of it. You know, those sorts of arguments are set up for flat earthers to fail when they say, look, it's got a different scale. And they're like, well, it was shot with a different lens at a different distance. And I've even seen people replicate it in scale. And at the end of that argument, you go, well, what? Because they've proven that the scales that they give you when modelled represent it as it's presented in those differing images, that means it's a sphere? No, all the images are taken from space. a fake place that can't exist because the gas we breathe would fill it.
Well, isn't that what Ranty did on the scaffolding? Put the proper scale with a Coke bottle, and then when asked what were his dimensions, he admitted he wasn't proper, and even though he was over 700 inches short of being proper scaling, he said it didn't matter. Something like that.
I didn't actually see that, no.
That was one of the best parts of the debate.
Okay.
Brian was good, man. Brian says, okay, you're going to scale. Let's see if you scaled right. And Ranty says, oh, I scaled perfect. I did everything right. And then Brian, as he intended, walked him through the process. And then Ranty, and then he says, no, you didn't scale right. Look at you, you're way off. And then he says, okay, I didn't scale right, but I'm still right, basically, is where Ranty went.
Standards are low, as I've said all along. It's the globe standards are lower than ours, much, much lower.
Yeah, but Ranty was on the scaffolding, so he was higher.
Well, I don't understand what any of this means, really, but fine, if you say so.
Yeah. Anyway, the ballers used to come here. There used to be so much noise here. Look how nice and quiet the neighborhood is.
Discord started, Philip.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see if someone's going to defend their ball. Anybody in Discord want to defend the ball, or you going to let it die today again?
We got somebody new. His name is Chad 2000. Not sure if he's baller or not. He's new.
Let's welcome him.
Hello, Chad. Welcome to the show.
Hiya. Yeah, no, I'm not a baller. I haven't been on for a while. I just came to have a listen.
Ah, it's Chad. Welcome, Chad.
Hi.
Chad, who isn't Chad?
Chad
It's Chad from 247.
That was hi, Chad from 247.
Yeah, I just came on to see if there's any new arguments. I haven't listened into the flat Earth stuff for a little while, so.
How long have you been away?
Just lingering.
How long have you not been listening, so to speak?
Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
How long have you not been listening, or have you not been keeping up? Because then.
Oh, about 3 or 4 months. I just deleted my Discord and everything, and just had a break.
in the last couple of months.
For this, you know.
In the last couple of months, we've had a new. I wouldn't call it improved, but certainly from a aesthetic point of view, you could say it's improved. Black Swan, which has been fondly titled the Blackpool Swan. Same argument applies.
So the Black what Swan?
Blackpool.
Blackpool. Oh, right. So it's from Blackpool, is it? England.
Indeed.
But
if you know the Black Swan,
just a guy who does a lot of stuff down there. It's got a PhD, hasn't he? The guy who does a lot of pictures down there.
Oh, Dr. John D.
Is that who did it?
No, it was just a photographer. So the
Globe
right. Side of the argument took a picture, that they found on Facebook, and ascribed angular sizes only to it, which were only acquirable on a flat plane. So they had to build up a little straw man to acquire the angular sizes, which in many instances they couldn't actually see in the image. Things were occulted, but I won't go into that. To then later burn as a straw man, saying you only claim angular size change at distance is the cause of whatever they were claiming. Well, usefully, initially it was cropped out, so they presented a Texas sharpshooter fallacy in the first instance, along with a straw man fallacy, which was highlighted immediately. But beyond the image they presented was a better, if you will, black swan. So the image itself that they did present was a black swan, which was identified immediately. But they'd cropped out a bit that you could see further back. Just great. So that's what you've missed.
Oh, right. So, yeah. More of the same then, but yeah.
Well, no, not
It's
more
clearer,
of the
isn't
same.
it?
It's not more of the same, because what they've done in this instance is they've tried to utilise an argument that includes perspective when they're begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator does not include perspective. So it's been a useful segue back to the Isle of Man, but with the addition of the Black Swan argument in tow when making those same arguments again, but pointing out the deficiencies in their arguments, because they used to claim a tangent point horizon and how much it was proved by the things loomed with respect to it. Now they're saying the horizon's refracted. So it's like, okay, so you've now taken the argument away from the horizon, and in debate, which is what was being discussed between Ranty and Brian, one of the stipulations by Ranty on the globe side, who has recently transitioned from flat to globe, was that we don't talk about the geometric Earth curve edge horizon. It's like, so they've tried to segue away from the calculators because they don't have a geometric horizon anymore, but in so doing, they needed to burn a straw man that we don't claim, to acquire angles to make these assertions about drop with angular size. It's like, well, your calculator doesn't include it, you haven't got a geometric horizon. You know, you're burying the globe Earth model further and further with this assertion, because it means we get to highlight to our audience almost daily now that there's no perspective in globe maths. It's completely excluded. But while they go on making their Mong trig claims that we don't, as a straw man claim, about what flat Earth should do according to them, we've been holding them to task about their trig and their claims about what they say a flat Earth should do when including only angular size changes, and then saying, why aren't these in your calculator now that you recognise them? So not Fleur perspective, something we've made up as flat Earthers then. You recognise and understand this effect is real. You just don't have it in your calculator.
You mentioned a sharpshooter fallacy. I'm not familiar with that one.
The Texas sharpshooter fallacy, also known as cherry picking. If I give you the analogy first, it's where a guy's up against the barn door with his gun, and he shoots off all 6 rounds, and then goes up to the barn door and sees where the shots are closest together, and then he hangs the target over those bits. So he says, look, I'm a really good shot, because he's hung the target over where he's got the best shot group. Well, in this case, they've got an argument they want to make, and they've taken a picture and just cut out the bit that best suits their argument. Also known as cherry picking.
Thanks.
Anthony brought up a point about the crop part. They may not have been the ones to cropped it. Kat said that, but like we don't know that he did, and they act like it's some big thing that it might not have been them.
Do you have a picture of the latest in main chat? Anyone could post it, please.
Maybe someone from Discord will post it for you. I wouldn't know how, but hopefully someone will help you out, I'm sure.
All right. Is it in Skype?
I haven't got it.
Or do I gotta hunt it down?
I've got to be honest.
I have one that's a screenshot of of your screen, Nathan. I'll post that.
Fine. I don't keep up to date with any of this stuff. People bring it to me, if you know what I mean. So everything I've told you is second hand, and if you're an audience member, you'd have the same info that I've just given you. In other words, that's just my rendition from second-hand info that I've not looked into in the slightest, and probably never will.
Master B, righteous.
Got it. Thank you, Teth.
There you go. You're all up to date now.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure. But nothing else has changed. Sorry, go on, whoever that was.
Hold on, I haven't got there yet. Almost. Oh, wait. Heart beat me to it. Alright. Well.
Yeah, I put it in the main chat. Did that man say he put it in Master B? Where is that place?
Yeah, it's
our chat. Internal chat.
I hear of this Master B and I never see it.
It's just an internal chat. It's not a public chat. That special chat that you're not part of.
not nice. You people
I'm
rock.
just joking. But it is actually true.
It is true. I know. I've never seen it. I'm not privy.
It serves
Yeah, if
well
you were-
because when someone needs something, one of the panel members could just post it there and then the other person can get it.
The reason it's private is because I post the link to the G Plus panel daily in that chat. So it's trusted people. Occasionally someone like Eli will sneak in. Oh, hi, Eli.
Yeah.
Cause chaos in there.
I've noticed.
No, it's just trusted people. Eli is absolutely a trusted person. That's why he's got a link. He wouldn't be here if he wasn't trusted. He is. Not that you're not trusted, I'm just saying, you know, generally people in there are vetted. Only because it's
You
so
can always
easy.
tell when he.
Go on.
I was going to say you can always tell when he opens his mic.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Thanks for that. Good morning, guys.
Hey, Eli.
Is
That's
that
one of
him?
those
Is
things.
that Eli?
That's a quirk of the show. You know, it's accepted that is just part of some of the guests' situations. You know, nobody's sat in a fully treated acoustic studio like me. Most people are sat with their phone next to them, so I just accept that now. I used to get annoyed about it back in the day, but it's like you just have to weigh up which is more important, Eli's voice being heard versus his crap mic. Well, his voice far exceeds the insufficiency of his mic. It's just that simple. So who cares? You just have to, therefore, from that point on, forget about it. And true with everybody else as well.
Yep. I used to get annoyed. I'd actually stop listening to the show because Paul's kids, every time Paul turned his mic on, here, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And then Chocolate, he would turn his mic on and you'd hear like air compressors and.
It's one of the quirks of the show.
Are you guys all in New York or something? Or are you all New Yorkers?
Yeah, well, I don't speak for him.
No, we're not all New Yorkers. Hey, Nathan, I was away for a minute, but I got a slide for you, Master B, to round off our pre-show.
Put it up. Whoops. Well, I had it up. Yep, got it up.
Yeah, you see it says line of position for the sun there, and you got the observer marked with an X. You got the moon's subpoint, or another word for the geographical position over the Earth at a night, directly overhead at that middle of the Atlantic Ocean there, it looks like. And then you got the sun over there as well, near Africa. And the black dot is the geographical position of the sun directly over that spot. And anywhere on the white circle, you can have an X because the observer could be the northern side, if you look here, or the southern side somewhere in Brazil, or the western side somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico there. Until you do that second circle by another luminary, you're not sure exactly where you are on that circle, but you know that you're exact distance away from that GP. Now, gathering by the sides of the circle of the moon, it covers pretty much the whole Atlantic Ocean, but all that has to be flat. Now, it's amazing to me how people realize to get an angle with a sextant, you need a baseline. And the baseline has to be flat all the way to the GP from anywhere on that circle. So if you were on the left side of that white circle, say somewhere in America, and I'm over here, or let me put you in England because you're already there. So you're the X, okay, Nathan, and say I'm the opposite side of that white dot, and say that represents, let's say, 2,500 miles or something, okay? Well, then I'm 2,500 miles away from it as well, meaning I'm 5,000 miles away from you. All that 5,000 has to be flat to get that angle. This is a death to the globe when it comes to navigation and circle of equal altitude. And you can't get an angle from a curve. So much like geometry kills the globe, sextant kills the globe as well.
Right.
Model, that is.
Obviously, observably, measurably, and navigatably flat.
Yes, and furthermore, I think I can create a case for the sextant that if they bring up refraction or any kind of looming or stooping or miraging, it won't matter because we know that's optical. That line to that subpoint has to be flat and level. It has to be a true baseline for the angle to exist with the altitude of your moon to get your triangle. So it just plows right through refraction, looming, stooping, miraging. Doesn't matter what your eyes tell you. It's got to be flat to that GP.
Yeah.
So there goes your refraction argument.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Excellent point. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Someone want to add something? Or is someone just scratching their mic? Got a minute left if you want to add something. Or we could just sit here in silence. I mean, that's good too. Or you could take my sarcasm literally. That's also good.
What? No.
Earth's flat. Nothing's left to talk about, really.
How much I disagree with that statement.
Well, we were listening to the show yesterday. That was hysterical. What? No.
Yeah, when he said the sun, I'm going to measure its movement to give me my proof, see? But you only said a few minutes ago it wasn't moving. No. No. Yeah. That's what he said.
The way you did it, though, and the way you caught it was classic.
Well, he was horrified. He's giving an example where he's measuring its movement in his own words.
Yeah,
it's like, you just told us it wasn't moving. No. No.
Not out of my lips.
He said, what? No.
He was shocked. That same sort of shock they display when you point out that their claim is that we've got an Earth curve horizon. No. No. Yeah, that's your claim. That's supposed to be what you're believing in. No. Nobody claims that.
But the way you catch it, it's say horrifying, right?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Adam, who's that shot? It's 10th Man, father of a stolen child, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Morning, morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good
Afternoon, everyone.
morning. And a good morning to everyone watching. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that's formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Nottingham.
No, certainly not here.
It's amazing that we have to search for this curve.
No, it's all around us. We just have to look carefully.
Yes, Rumpus did indeed tell us that having a straight line, that would be a tangent, was irrelevant. And then I asked him, well, why did you use it then? Because we had to show it you. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, Nathan. If there was, then anything off the surface of the Earth would have Earth-based Coriolis and helicopters, airplanes, hot air balloons, bullets, all kinds of things like that. We don't see that, experience that whatsoever.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, are we? I will go. It's over there.
In my picture? Behind me, dressed as a spaceman?
Yeah. Yeah, it's right behind you.
I think they're saying now that they don't see physical geometry.
Is there a bit of a delay?
Not really.
We're on to the distance to the sun, John.
Right. Well, they're saying they're not seeing physical geometry, so they can't really measure it anymore.
Oh, I see. Okay, my bad. So you're saying based on nobody had made the claim though. That's why I got confused. Nobody had said 93 million miles.
93 million miles.
What was that, John?
No one claims we see physical geometry.
Oh, well, how are you going to get the R value to measure that distance then? Also, that's a bit of a problem for Einstein, right? Brian's not here. Oh, well. 1 AU,
Well,
right?
we have a problem. Everybody's got to watch out because China sent a rocket out and they lost it, and it's going to come down somewhere, but they don't know where.
Be a bit more detailed. Sent a rocket out. What was it? Out on the town? Out partying?
Yeah, they sent it up into the violation of second law of thermodynamics, the area they call space.
No, they didn't. That's a lie. Who? China? No, China are lying.
Well, what they're saying is everybody watch out because it's coming down somewhere.
Aren't there people in that?
In space.
Yeah, it's been all over the news. The Pentagon, the White House, that's all they're talking about today. Yay.
Don't be afraid.
They
Be
very, fired, right?
very afraid.
It's a really good one, Nathan. Buy into the fear and have to accept the paradigm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, when you're looking up into the sky, wondering whether a Chinese satellite's going to hit your head, you've already accepted that space exists.
That's why I immediately said it's fake. Well, where did they say they sent it?
Satellite or rocket?
Let's just ask the question. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
No, that's nonsense.
Turn on a fan.
Oh, got lots of...
Fan will do it.
Say again? What will do it?
Turn on a fan and it creates air pressure.
Where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place?
It's right there.
Okay.
All you got to do is turn on a fan and then you pressurize it.
Turning on a fan in existing gas pressure, though. And I'm asking, how do you have the existence of the gas pressure in the first place without a container?
Well, if he's saying the fan is the antecedent, there's got to be another fan. Can you show us that other
It's
fan?
not. It's moving existing air pressure. And my question isn't about a change in air pressure, a pressure gradient. These are deltas of the original question. So if you can say, well, I can create this, that, and the other effect within existing gas pressure, it's like, well, that doesn't address my question. Any evidence that you can have that existence of gas pressure before you introduce the fan without a container?
Yeah. No. That'll be contained.
Yeah, because if a satellite's going to fall from space, then there can't be a container, because otherwise it'd hit the container. And I'm scared it's going to hit me on the head, so there can't be a container.
That's based on.
So you must be able to have gas pressure without a container.
So I was told to go outside with a barometer Measure the pressure, and there you have it. Gas pressure out
Yeah,
of
that
container.
proves we've got. What does that prove? That proves we have gas pressure. No one's contesting that. But to go outside, say, look, there's gas pressure, therefore there's a sky vacuum, is totally absurd. Because look, we have gas pressure, and look up there, there's a volume it's not filling, is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
What about Mount Everest, though? They say that you can't even breathe up there. So
No, you can breathe up there. People go up there and breathe.
So it's thinner. The gas that made its way from the ground to the top of Everest, where there's very little vegetation to create any gas, very little life to create gas. There's very little of the cycle's beginnings, but there's still gas there. So it's made its way up. Yeah, that's because it's had an entropy increase to make its way to the top of Everest, for people to still be able to breathe there. Well, it's increased its in entropy and made its way up to the top of Everest. But what, it just stops at the Kármán line and doesn't fill the availability of volume beyond Everest? If it was space
no.
to fill?
Some leaks out. There's some leaking out, though. There's
Leaking out of what?
Gas.
Hold on, Ten. Some leaks out, right, is
Yeah,
to
we have
assert that you've
escaping
got
gas. Absolutely.
a leak in a container. Because in terms of it leaking out, you can quantify that in terms of what it will do. And there's a description of what it will do. It's called an entropy increase. Well, not a little bit would disappear. The gas would fill the space. All of
He
it.
said leaks out. Yeah, he said leaks out. So he's already saying there is a containment and there's a place where it leaks out. Is that what he was saying?
Actually, I know. I guess I said that wrong. It just
Okay.
escaped.
So I say it right. Escaped. Escape out of where?
Yeah, see, I don't know how to say this then. Just,
It escapes from some of it escapes from the non-containment that's keeping the rest that isn't escaping from the non-containment from escaping the non-containment. There you go. How's
Right.
that? You've
Very
got
good. Thank you.
got to be able to
It would
repeat
be
that nonsense for me
constantly
to
filling
challenge
that
it in
available
rebuttal, though.
space.
Harp.
Go on. You were saying constantly something. Go on.
Well, it should be constantly filling that available space, not just a little bit leaking out here and there. This one little spot, like a hole in the damn container. There is no container, so be constantly filling that available.
Yeah, all of the gas.
Well, I think we're spinning so fast, it just kind of keeps the gas here. You know what I mean?
No.
We're spinning so fast, and then the sun. We're going around like 66,000 miles an hour. See, we're moving so fast. There's no way it can escape. Right? Is that how it works?
No.
Wouldn't that go outward?
Yeah, but doesn't that force when you spin real quick? Doesn't that keep everything inside?
What centrifugal
No,
force?
no.
No. But that's not what's being claimed anyway. There is no claim that holds the gas here. Gravity is not a force. Centrifugal force
Atmosphere.
would throw it off if that was how gas worked. It isn't. It's just free to expand of its own volition in all directions. And if it encounters anything, be it another gas particle or the walls of a container, it'll bounce off it. That's it.
But how about in pseudo-Riemannian force space? Could the bending of space-time cause it to prevent expanding in all directions and kind of stay in the puddle that would be represented in the 3D world as a ball?
That's where you
There
went
you
wrong.
go.
Represented in a 3D world. No, 4D space-time isn't represented in a 3D world. It's a conceptual mathematical medium. So no, it has no effect on the 3D world.
But what about the force of gravity emerging from pseudo-Riemannian force space, non-force gravity?
You can calculate it if you
What
like,
about-
but it's
hold
not
on.
real.
Just listen to how Arwin phrases things, right? What about the force of gravity that's in the pseudo-Riemannian? That's a non-force. That was his question.
Right, it emerges from the non-force of gravity.
So a non-force gives rise to a force. And the non-force, which is described in pseudo-Riemannian force space as the bending of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass, gives rise, and that's called gravity, by the way, gives rise to, and that's not a force, but that gives rise to a force called gravity. So the not actual force of gravity gives rise to a force of gravity. Is that what you're saying?
Yes!
That's nonsense.
But that's what Fight the Flat Earth said, if I remember
It's
correctly.
still nonsense. Doesn't matter who said it.
I thought it was fascinating.
He's been told by... He's an idiot. He's been told by George Musa, who had on to back him in his claims that gravity was a force. And I quote, to Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, literally, it is not a force. That's what George Musa said to him.
Yeah, I don't think that. I
But
don't think
you
that was.
can think of it as a force. So
No, that wasn't part of that statement.
He took that.
No, that was part of a different statement. That statement was, quote, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, end quote. Well, thinking of a car as a baked potato can be done. You can think of a car as a baked potato. It's not a baked potato, but you can think of it as one.
Right, but you could definitely sell it and get a baked potato at some point. So
That's
you
true
can
also.
consider it to be a baked potato.
I can, and you can too. I give you permission. It's not,
you.
but you can.
You can get in a crash, Arwen, and think of it as mashed.
Boom, boom.
That's a good one.
Well,
Right, but
we
I
all-
don't actually have a baked potato like that.
we often talk about gas pressure without a container. Do you see what I posted in the chat? Did it even go through? I think it did.
In which chat?
I don't see it. Main
Master
chat? What
B.
chat? Oh no, Lite, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry.
It's okay. He's posted it in our special private chat.
I'll post it in,
Yeah, in their own
I'll
little
post it in
clique
there,
where
too.
we ain't allowed to
Well,
see.
I mean,
That ain't right. That ain't
since
cool.
it's not.
You're gonna get him rumpused about presenting it to me so I can present it to the audience. Okay, I've got it up for you, Eli. Matter in the liquid state. Right?
Awesome. Yes. So this says matter in the liquid state, right? Matter in the liquid state maintains a fixed volume, but has a variable shape that adapts to fit its container. So my question is the outside of a ball a container?
No, it's a surface.
All right, well, I mean, shoot.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much.
Well, you got a picture up on your screen that shows the outside of this model of theirs is infinite space. So, no, they're not saying it's a container.
Well, usually,
Go on, John.
well, usually, the way they teach gravity is first you have to accept it as a force before you can accept it's not a force, but it still has that causal power of the force.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, and where do we observe this causal power and evidence scientifically of gravity, John?
Well, first you have to pick something up and then drop it.
Helium balloon.
Okay.
Helium balloon. Is that it?
John.
Moving on. Clearly, moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I'm afraid my attempts to get Dr. Becky to answer simple questions is put on the side forever. They're into pop science, not real science though, but they like to call it science. And pop science is, looking at things through a telescope and imagining it, and then using calculations and seeing something black out there and calling it something. I mean, it's just nonsense. And then they actually have school studies on this, and they, from one type of discipline of teaching on the subject to another, then they go to these events where they get pictures with this PhD who's got this one finding. And then when you ask them a simple question, crickets. It's like they live in their own little world of make-believe.
I was going to edit down the bit from yesterday, but after a couple of minutes of watching it, I thought, no, I'm gonna leave this as a full video. It ended up being over almost an hour, over 50 minutes long. But I thought, no, I'll put a little teaser of part of what happens during the show at the beginning, intro, and then I'll just play the whole lot. Because I think it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 10 attempts to demonstrate to a fundamentalist religious zealot with a sphere belief that is only here to tell me I'm stupid, that his claim of science is not correct, while he's using it to grease the skids of It's Just So stories. Now, that person was a great demonstration of religious zealotry. It didn't matter what I said. It was ignored. It fell on deaf ears, regardless of how concisely it was put to him, how many times it was put to him. If it disagreed with his position, it was ignored. And I thought that's worthy of a separate video, even though it'll be lengthy. So check that out. I am going to release it. I've almost finished doing it. But yeah, check that out. I'll release it in the next day or two, hopefully. A lengthy video of a fundamentalist religious zealot using science, which he didn't have, to make his claim of being capable of acquiring a radius value. You know, just nonsense. Doesn't matter how much you prove them wrong. They'll just deny it or ignore it in favour of their religion. In this case,
and the most telling part of that, as well as past conversations that were similar to that, is that we even take their source as to what it's supposed to be and ask the question. Like the black swan is really their argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, it's the best way to beg the question within that modus tollens, and we're giving it to them and saying, if it's this, then this. That even destroys. So just by bringing up,
it's a straw man.
Exactly, chocolate. Exact. So we reference their 3959 and give it to them in the modus tollens. Well, if it is, then this, right? Well, it is, but not that is where they go. It is, but not that. So then it's not.
Which is funny, because if it was that, they would just accept it and say, yeah, well, yeah, of course, if the Earth is a sphere with radius of 3959, yeah, because the geometric horizon is at 1.2 miles. But because it's not, nah. We can't use that. It's a straw man using our radius against us. What do you mean? It's a joke. Anyway, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, chocolate. Oh, John, go.
The basis for her calculations is a straw man.
Yes, that's what they're saying. They deny their claim in the first instance, to the degree where they'll say the horizon is not Earth curve.
Yeah, that was the second response that started making me just start bugging out of my brain. Like, wait a minute, do these guys know what they're saying? First of all, they're telling us that this thing that boats are supposed to be going behind, we don't see it. And now their radius is a straw man? What? Like,
yeah,
insanity, man.
But that's where we're at, right? What is it, 6 or 7 years into this argument? That's where we're at. They deny their claim in the first instance. You're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour, turn of the Earth, underneath things not attached. It's called Coriolis effect. Show it me. Well, I can't. We don't claim that. Who says that things turn underneath? I'm going to debunk your claim that you say that we make that things turn underneath. Yeah, that's Coriolis effect. We don't claim that. Give me a citation where we claim things should drift at 15 degrees an hour. By the way, thanks, Bob, for proving that things drift at 15 degrees an hour. We don't claim that. That's what they do.
Well, they do when they say the sun's going over the edge or the sun is setting or the sun. They do claim it because they're saying the Earth is turning at 15 degrees an hour. And that's where they have their problem. If they would just say we're stationary and motionless and then it's the sun moving, they wouldn't have a problem, because when you say the sun moving proves the Earth is turning, well, then great. Get up on an airplane and the Earth should turn under that too, right? Boom, dead, over.
It's useful to hold these claims.
Citation for that?
Go on.
Yeah, it's called Pan American, TWA, Delta.
Chocolate.
I was going to say, does 10th man have a citation for all that? Because, apparently they need to be presented citations for their own claims.
They
So, yeah.
even have a private jet named Citation. I can give it to them.
As I say, there's
Well,
certain.
if you accept the citation that you give them, then they'll just say, then you accept the reference is true. So that'll be another red
I
herring.
mean, the funny thing is about them not accepting their own citations is, yeah, citations don't mean anything without any backing to it. So anybody can say whatever, right? But the funny thing is they don't accept their own citations because there's no backing. So keep not accepting your own citations, Glovers. Have fun with that.
You mean like the National Geographic one that you had up the other day?
Yes.
Exactly.
I'll explain that for the audience's benefit, actually. So, we have an argument called the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to horizon in the Black Swan images, including but not limited to the Blackpool Swan, is in excess of the geometric limitations of a sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere. Its horizon is not a physical blockage to these turbines, to the boat, to the Isle of Man, as is claimed. Now, when that argument's put to a sphere-believing fundy, their response will be, nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve to block these turbines for this boat to go behind to block the Isle of Man with a tangent-based geometry we assert proves Earth curve. Nobody claims that is their response. Literally, they tell you, we're not claiming it. We say that that position we formerly claimed was an obstruction to these things in the distance is actually a refracted, non-geometric position that cannot give us the maths to assert its Earth curve, and it isn't Earth curve, it's a refracted, non-Earth curve position, but it's based on the geometric Earth curve we can no longer acquire. That's their response. So they deny their claim in the first instance. Then you point out to them that their claim requires a geometric Earth curve edge horizon. It's in their geometry, marked as horizon. And they have claimed that it's a geometric sphere edge getting in the way of turbines, the Isle of Man, Barrow-in-Furness, the list goes on. But they then don't know where to go, because what are they going to do? Deny that they have an Earth curve edge that's geometric? Because they've just told us it isn't capable of being seen and only exists in the maths? Or are they going to say we do have a geometric horizon, in which case, well, we've just explained that the Black Swan debunks that geometric sphere edge horizon. It's beyond the geometric limitations, therefore not a geometric horizon. So they're screwed both ways. Refraction? Oh, what's that? Oh, of course. Lest I forget that they've got that cracker of a response. Well, refraction in their globe model is based on the R value. 7/6 of the radius value in standard form. Standardized terrestrial refraction, shortened to standard refraction. But it's based on R. And where do they get R? Well, they get it from the edge of a sphere. It's the distance from it to the centre. That's what a radius is. And if you haven't got one, then you haven't got the geometry to bend the light around the sphere or bend the horizon around the sphere, which wasn't asserted when we debated about what was claimed to be proving the horizon was Earth curve. Now it's not. Well, that's just the end of the model. It's paradoxical. It only exists in the maths. We've even had that as a disclaimer. Quote, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Well, that's Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in the maths. But what's that you say? The thing that only exists in the maths is the cause of the horizon? No, it isn't.
Well, why don't you show us where the globe claims that this geometric horizon is visible?
I can't stand it. There is a geometric horizon. It's just not spherical geometric horizon. It's flat geometric horizon.
Bev pointed that out to me, and I immediately had to concede in that point, and you're right, Arwin. But he trimmed it out as Nathan concedes geometry. I'm like, you bastard, with the clickbait title. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've only got to get 30 seconds into the video to realise it's just clickbait. But by the same token, I was like, well, technically, true. You know what I mean? He's got me there. I was like, good on you with the clickbait title, Bev. Shout out to you, my friend. Also, shout out to you fighting the good fight in the chat there, Arwin. I was watching it go by. Epic stuff. Any evidence?
They keep trying.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Oh no.
Well,
No,
they
there
have
are-
tests and models. It's just there's no actual confirmation that any of the tests or models are real.
Some models
The
aren't
Black
real.
Swan killed that too, Nathan.
Indeed, yeah, you got to have a centre of a presupposed spherical
Well,
Earth for the molten or
They would
solid
be
iron
if they
core
were
to be at.
scientific models.
Say again, chocolate.
Colin said none of those models have been tested. That's because they're not scientific models. Because then they would have been through science. It would have been tested and validated, and we wouldn't need to talk about it.
What scientific? The only scientific models I know are really hot chicks that do science, but are also models on the side.
All right.
Days to confuse.
Citation.
Just Google pictures. There's also models pretending to be science to promote it. You could call those scientific models too, I guess.
What haven't we had? Have we had all the housekeeping questions? Sure, I've missed one. No, I think
To do
that is
the
it.
astrophysics and all that.
Yeah, covered gravity, astrophysicists, no scientific evidence thereof. Axial rotation,
pressure?
Earth curves, distance to the sun, molten iron core. Ah, got
Gas
it.
pressure.
No, covered that as
Oh, we
well.
did.
Covered that. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Almost forgot about that one.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you need curvature for that?
Yeah,
I
you'd
think
need.
Kosho should be speaking up, huh? How about the Kosho? I see you.
I don't see him.
Yeah, incognito.
Yeah, like
Kosho, reveal yourself, Kosho.
it's like Earth curve. It's incognito.
Kosho's like the geometric horizon. You don't expect to see him.
Kosho was sent away on a task if it is him, because he didn't think weather was real last time he was here. And I was like, obviously, we've just spent some of this show talking about their refracted R value that they automatically apply. You know, why wouldn't you automatically apply a value that bends light around sphere Earth? We have atmosphere, right? Well, when it comes to making up a straw man claim that flat earthers don't claim, they just remove all effects of the weather. And I pointed that out to him and said, go and get the weather data, the legacy data for the claim that was made that Kosho didn't know anything about, but simultaneously had all the data for the camera that the picture was taken from, because he's a liar.
No, he told me.
Hold
He told me.
Mr. Hurricane's 100% move in a straight line thinks weather isn't real.
That's not what he said to me on Gem Panda. On Gem Panda's server, he said that Nathan would not allow him to give an answer because Nathan knew that he had the right answer. Come on, Kosho, tell him.
When the baller wants to say weather is not real, the argument gets a bit long-winded.
All they need is 10 more seconds.
Yeah, when they're making a straw man argument claim that we don't make, then in their straw man argument claim that we don't make, they'll say, don't need weather. Why? Well, because the flat earthers wouldn't have weather. Oh, really? Would we not? Yeah, we would. But Kosho was sent on his way,
No.
tail between his legs, to go and get the legacy data for the weather, for the observation he didn't have a very good idea about, but simultaneously had all the data on the camera that took the picture. Shocking.
Doesn't matter. Weather doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, then we point
Everything's becoming irrelevant to these people.
Yeah, said it won't make any difference. It's the same every day. And then Anthony rightly points out that some days you can't even see the mountains. So, as I get Fundy muted, some days you can't even see the mountains because of the weather that, when making a straw man claim that flat earthers don't make, is apparently irrelevant.
You really want to
So,
have
really
Kosho, very good
Kosho
to speak.
Hurricane's
I speak to Kosho all the time, and I understand I've heard he's not able to speak over here. I'm actually hearing Nathan Oakley for the first time on here ask you a question, and I'm not being rude, hon. I'm not trying to call you out. I just don't understand why you're not saying anything unless you just don't have time to talk, but they are actually trying to get you to speak. and I'm actually a witness to it this time.
They're always allowed to speak. They always say the same crap. They're always given ample time. I mean, Nathan, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most patient people I've ever heard. Over and over and over, he will repeat himself.
Okay, can you shut up already? Shout out to LV23 for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Well, the real problem is they like to answer questions no one asks.
Yep.
And after
That's
the third,
exactly
fourth,
true.
fifth, sixth time, it just gets really bothersome. Or they'll just say, well, your question is malformed or it's irrelevant. I mean, what the?
Well, the biggest problem they got is when they start with the fallacious reasoning and you say, okay, you can't assume the outcome, you need to prove it. And then they keep continuing. And then later they get off the show and say, yeah, he wouldn't let me talk. He cut me off. Well, your argument's fallacious. Why are we going to waste everyone? I mean, unless you can prove that us saying it was fallacious was wrong, which they never do.
Anyway, have we got the weather data or what?
That's going to be 85.
I need the weather data on those hurricanes.
You know, I have been hearing a lot about you.
Any of the flatties want to have fun. Ask Kosho how hurricane winds move. That'll be a great one.
It gives you a straight
all
answer.
People are
chocolate.
saying lately, Nathan, is you don't give anybody time to speak, and whatever they say, you don't want to hear about. Their proof you don't want to hear about, and that's just for me ridiculous. Because like I told them, someone just said a second ago, if you come in here with BS, yeah, you're going to shut them down real quickly. But if you actually have some evidence and some verification, then yeah, Nathan will hear you. But that's the problem. There is no actual evidence or verification. So as soon as they start speaking, yeah, you're going to shut them down if it's not true. You're going to say stop right there and go on and continue with what you have to say because you're about verification.
I'd hope so. I mean, like I say, the video that's going to come out that I say trimmed out, I did make a few minor edits because I used the C word several times. So I edited those out. But other than that, it's unedited. It's just as is. Hence, it's very long. But right at the beginning, the guy comes on. I clear the airways for him, let him make his claim in full, and then start to address it.
So again, they're just saying a bunch of lies like normal. And now we verified that.
No, the issue is there's no problem believing in the globe. There's only a problem defending your belief with reality.
Back to Alwyn's epic quote. They want to live on a sphere. They just don't want the consequences of living on a sphere.
Which is stupid. Why would you want to live on a sphere?
Because that's what the Western world believes.
Especially when you live on a flat plane.
Right.
Because then none of the movies would make any sense. That's why. That's the only reason I could find.
They all show you a flat plane until they go into the space. But other than that, anything that's filmed on the ground, that's flat, stationary. It's how we experience it. I don't get where they transfer that into Star Wars land. And they just want to
have any evidence of that?
Ball. Yeah, I live
Can
here.
you prove the Earth is flat? This is what they ask me all the time. Can you prove the Earth is flat?
Yeah, Blackpool Swan.
Hold on. Yes, I can. We take measurements. Everyone measures it as flat.
Right. I added that to my replies.
Prove the Earth.
Obviously, observably, and measurably flat. Now, I don't know if I'll add navigationally flat onto that as well, but it's true. You know, we deal with a flat world. That's just a fact. The extraordinary claim is that we're on a sphere.
I bought this little lighter yesterday at the shop, and it has an astronaut on Mars looking at some other planet. I picked it up, I showed it to the girl. I was like, yeah, because this is what we do. And she started laughing. She doesn't believe it either.
Yeah,
It's funny. You go around and I don't know. maybe it's because of where I live. People see, I don't know. But there's a lot of people that don't buy the whole ball thing around here. A lot of flat earthers, mostly fishermen.
As I say, we experience a flat world, and often from the heliocentric religious side, their priesthood will declare it, how flat it is. And that's because that's what you have to deal with. That's what you experience. That's what's measured and shown in Google Earth. That's the reality of your situation. There aren't any representations that will give you the actual claim measured out at 8 inches per mile squared. That's something that you will compare a picture you take with a mathematical reification in side view, Muppet vision, orthographic view, without perspective, targets not changing with their size and the distance. 10-foot wall at 1,000,000 miles still being able to be drawn, with you still being able to see it. All ludicrous. But that's where the Earth curve lives. In a reified Earth curve horizon that we don't have anymore. So it's the end of the road for the model. There's nowhere else for it to go. It would have gone somewhere in the last 18 months since the Blackpool... I keep calling it the Blackpool Swan now, but the original Blackpool Swan came out. What have they got?
The Earth curve is like Freddy Krueger. It just lives in your dreams.
It does. Lives in the maths. Doesn't live anywhere else. There is no Earth curve edge horizon. Yeah, they claim boats go over it, until you realise that it doesn't. And then you point out how and why it doesn't. And in the case of the flat Earth debate, we're now in a position where they're telling us it's not real. They're telling us it only exists in the maths. They're telling us we can't see it. And now we're asking them, why did you show it us at the Isle of Man then? Why did you draw a tangent to it then? And the answer is simple, because that's what their claim is. They're just denying their claim now, because we've debunked it.
Yeah, when they have a calculation that is based on a measurement they take to the horizon, now they're denying that calculation to try to keep that calculation. It doesn't make any sense. Even if you grant them refraction, it destroys the model.
Unitox Femu or Sasha from the chat says, maybe globers are claustrophobic because of a closed system, and then everything is coming from their mind. I mean, I think it's kind of the other way around. If you've got a completely open, empty space and you're a speck of dust in an infinitely expanding soup of nothingness, then you can have a very nihilistic outlook on life. Not a lot matters.
That's another phobia. I don't know how to for open space. I don't know how it's named, but it exists also.
What exists?
The phobia of open space. Of open. Claustrophobia, it's a closed space.
Agoraphobia.
And you have opposite of that.
I think.
Agoraphobia is
the fear of going outside, right?
Yeah, agoraphobia.
Yep.
Or agoraphobia, some people call it. But anyway, yeah. The fear of wide open spaces.
Yeah, that will not prove the globe, yeah.
But that is, in some way, something I've experienced, if you want to call that agoraphobia or agoraphobia. Back in the day when I was a heliocentrist. You'd think of the infinite expanding universe and how insignificant you were, and it would be a little bit scary.
I was a geocentrist. I was never a heliocentrist. Never worshipped the sun.
Well, now I'm thinking about
but
the term,
maybe
I'm putting it together myself, but geophobia, right? Because I mean, we investigate these things. We just go wherever the information takes us. They refuse to deal with the information. They're geophobic.
I don't think it's geophobia.
That's good.
It's zealotry. The word zealotry. They're zealots.
It's the world religion, folks. Everybody's waiting for this new world religion to come out and fool everybody. And guess what? Everybody's already been fooled.
Exactly.
It's called the heliocentric model.
Yeah, the heliocentric religion. Heliocentrism is
Correct.
the religion. Heliocentrism is what you're part of. You just don't even know it. And your westernized world religion, which may become considered as the one world religion, will be heliocentrism. that would be the sun at the centre of your world, an ever-expanding space in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. That's your religion. Now, the people who we point that out to, when I say they're zealots, the example would be, again, in the show that I'm going to release in the next couple of days, where the guy has his position taken apart quite concisely on multiple occasions. But when that happens, there's a short pause, he'll ignore all of it, and then either ask for more time or repeat the claim again. And you're like, well, your claim's been taken to pieces. Now, in that instance, it's a claim of science, having a scientific validity to a just-so-story presupposition. You're like, well, you haven't got an independent variable that can be varied. He claimed Earth turn, science thereof. It's like, well, you can't vary that if that's your independent variable. Claim cause of the effect you're claiming. Which is non-existent, but we didn't even get into that. It's like, you haven't got science. Now, he still wants to believe that that story he's been told or he has read is science. So, therefore, he cannot hear the fact that it isn't. It cannot process. It will not process. And you end up in a position where you have to repeat the same thing 13 times, with them conceding the points. No, I can't vary my variable. Well, then it's not science. Short pause. But I can calculate blah, blah, blah. That's zealotry.
He can measure the controls.
Well, he was saying that the controls, the control variables, are going to be causing the independent variable to have the effect on the dependent variable. I've extrapolated out his logic, but that's what he was saying. The controls cause the independent effect. That's essentially the shortened version. I can't paraphrase him perfectly. I can't quote him verbatim because he was foreign. I don't know how to paraphrase exactly how he phrased it. But nevertheless, that's essentially what he was saying. The control.
He was saying you can measure the control.
Yeah, I can measure the controls.
Yeah, I remember because he said it like 15 times.
Yeah. It's just ludicrous. But then we asked him, well, what's a... I think the way I phrased it was, what's a constant variable? Now, I was caught out by that on my QE, I'll just confess now. It was like, because it was a term I hadn't heard. Like, what do you mean, constant variable? That's a double... That doesn't make sense, right? If it's varying variable, then how is it constant? That makes no sense. Well, it's something that can potentially vary, but you hold it constant. Constant variable. That is what it's actually called. It's just your CV. Constant variables, right? IV, DV, CV. Well, if you've never heard it phrased that way, and you're like, well, we've got controls, we've got constants. Okay. Well, what is your constant variable? What's the status? What does it mean? And the guy didn't know. Why? Well, because he's pretending he's got science. When it's called out as not being science, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. It's total Dunning-Kruger. Shout out to Bobby Zines, who says, here's a few quid for reaching 130 viewers. Well, thank you very much.
Didn't Rumpus give the whole show away when he said it only exists in the maths?
Yeah. Earth curve only exists in the maths.
Well, there you go, folks.
Yep. And then I tried to ask him, so the boats are disappearing behind the maps?
Basically, yeah. But yes, basically. What? They're saying the horizon is caused by Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in the maths. Therefore, boats going over the horizon with an assertion of Earth curve is boats going over something that's caused by maths. Yes, that's correct, Chocolate.
Well, if you refract the horizon, though, you don't have nothing to base your mathematics on.
Precisely. And that's the black swan. 18 months down the line, hopefully it's starting to sink into the fundies when they bark refraction. Now, little do they know that there's method in John's madness. You know, he's going to put this particular photo up for a reason. I found out after the fact when he sneered at me, or sniggered, I should say, not sneered. When he sniggered at me, he was like, yeah, I want the one with the bendy grains, and I want them to say refraction. It's the death knell of their argument, because they've no longer got the geometry to claim if they haven't got a tangent. As soon as you refract the horizon, you're debunking your argument that the horizon's Earth curve. That's the end of the argument. Now, yeah, it's taken them a while. They still come in and go, refraction, and Dunning-Kruger, because they don't understand the argument. They don't know what they don't know. They just think that's the response, because they've been handed it by people who they perceive as more intelligent than themselves. And when they say refraction, well, that's obviously the end of the argument, right? Well, no, your refraction's based on R. When you point that out to them, they go, well, I can still get R. Well, no, you can't. You've just told me you can't measure it or see it. Yeah, but in the maths I get the R, and then I make the horizon be that mathematical... No, you don't. That's nonsense. It's a reification fallacy. Shout out again to Unisox Femu, who says 50 million reason. Oh, it's gone off my screen. 50 million reason per day is too much, to be honest. I think it's 53 million now. It's NASA you're referring to there. 53 million a day.
Well, I'm getting slammed for that religious remark in your little chat over here.
Which religious remark?
Even Kosho's busting on me.
In the chat.
Kosho's still
the
here.
main
He's not
chat,
speaking.
not the privy chat.
What happened? He doesn't like us today?
Oh, well.
Come on, Kosho.
Yeah,
What's going on, man?
Let's just call him No Show.
He had weather
Hold
data.
on, I've been going on.
That's
Going
usually
on.
what it's
Jim
called.
Panda's talking to him, so he could come on here and talk to me.
He's trying to get the weather data. And we'll hear from him when he does.
What? No.
And now for the weather. Hurricane winds are moving 100% in a straight line. And now sports.
Look, no poisoning the well. He's had chores. You know, I'm sure he's going to come back with a slightly more coherent response than nothing ever changes, weather's not real.
Did you say coherent?
Yeah.
When does he ever come back with something coherent?
Who said incoherent dielectric acceleration? Again with that?
Well, like I say, last time it was
nobody.
weather doesn't change the image. Don't need it for our flat earth straw man we're burning. Oh, yeah.
Who in the right mind would ever say hurricanes move in a straight line?
Somebody who understands the principle of Coriolis deviation, which would be to assert that there's a not actual deflection of something in the air. Therefore, for you to perceive a hurricane to be turning as a result of you turning beneath it on a claim to be turning Earth, then that would imply that it's travelling straight and only perceived to be turning because you're moving underneath it, as claimed in Coriolis. But that would need your hurricanes to be travelling straight for that Coriolis claim to make sense on a turning Earth. Obviously, they've got actual spin directions as opposed to not actual deflection Coriolis effect. That's why it's been claimed that way. Cognitive break.
Well, wouldn't that also not actual deflection also be appropriate for other things that are not on the surface of the Earth, as the Earth is claimed to be turning underneath it?
Anything not attached would deflect at 15 degrees an hour.
Well, that's a good way to verify if the claim is true in the first place. So if a drone goes and hovers...
Yeah,
what
showing
happens?
anything deflecting at 15 degrees an hour would be a good way of proving their claim that things drift at 15 degrees an hour because we turn underneath them to cause Coriolis. It's just a shame nothing demonstrates that effect whatsoever, in spite of them claiming, as Neil deGrasse Tyson does, that a ball is deflected through a goal because Earth turned beneath it. Or their claims in the trenches that snipers have to lead their targets because the Earth turns beneath the bullet.
What's the definition of Coriolis again, Nathan?
The not actual deflection experienced from a non-inertial turning reference frame.
That it doesn't use all of those words. Can you try again, please?
Can you suck my balls?
Why, you didn't understand all those words?
I knew Ed was
What's
coming
wrong with
back.
you?
Right, why? Have I made a Coriolis claim? Who's claiming Coriolis? You or me?
You're claiming a specific definition of it, so can you read the actual definition, please?
I don't have one to hand, I just know what it is.
Apparently you don't. Can you please look it up and display it on the screen so everyone
Really?
knows you know what you're
What do
talking
you
about?
say?
Listen to this
Well, first and
clown.
foremost, who's claiming Coriolis here? Because I'm not claiming Coriolis. Maybe you think this is a Simon Dan situation where you need to debunk my reference frames that I'm not claiming?
You're claiming a specific definition, so again, can you pull up the actual definition on the screen, please?
Nah.
This is the saddest tactic I've heard yet, bro.
Really? You're not
This
going to do
dude
it?
needs to go.
Can I read the
This
definition?
dude is
and post it
nothing
in
but
the
a
chat?
troll, and just get rid of him.
You hear that tremble in his voice?
Can I read the definition?
Yeah, it's
Can I
pretty
read the
cold
definition
outside.
that he asked
So,
for?
did you think I asked to joke around? I'm
You can't.
asking you for a
Whoever's
reason.
asking to read the
What's
definition
the
out
real
for him,
definition of
he's not going
Coriolis,
to shut up.
Nathan?
Somebody from the background said they want to read the definition. Now, I don't care if you do or you don't. If you want to, you can. But I know what Coriolis effect is. I can detail it very specifically and clearly and concisely for
I
an
don't
audience.
think you do.
Oh, really? Who's making the claim, I
Yeah.
asked. Why do we need to do this, was my original question. Who's claiming Coriolis?
You are claiming a specific definition of Coriolis.
So this isn't
So
Coriolis
again, can you
debate.
pull up the definition,
Okay,
please?
okay, that's fascinating. We're not here to debate the definition of Coriolis, though, are we? So who's claiming this effect of Coriolis for us to want to or need to debate about it? Because I don't want to debate the definition of Coriolis with you. I want to know who's claiming it. You don't seem to want to
I
answer
wonder why
though.
you don't want to do that.
Well, I'm wondering who's claiming it. Why would it be under discussion? And the reason he doesn't want to say me.
You are claiming a specific definition.
That's true. And?
Right.
And?
So can you pull up the actual
Why?
real definition
Why?
on the screen, please?
Why?
So you can demonstrate you know what you're talking about.
And why would we be talking about it?
You just talked about it, so can
And
you
why?
demonstrate
Why
you
would
know
we
what
be
you're
talking about it?
or not?
Hey, Globe Defender, you seem reluctant to want to state this as a globe claim. You seem to want to flip the burden of proof onto me to get me to cite a definition of Coriolis because I'm claiming Coriolis? No, I'm not. What did I claim has the effect? I can give you a demonstration of Coriolis with a verbal representation that's concise and clear for an audience if you wish. I don't need to cite it. I can verbally describe it accurately and concisely, and already have done. It's the effect of not actual drift observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame. That is Coriolis. Don't have to like it. Why would we be discussing it, though?
That's not what I said. Why are you switching it? I never said you claimed Coriolis.
Who does then? Who does claim Coriolis? Why would we be discussing this effect?
So you're saying that he
Claim
didn't
a
claim
very
Coriolis,
specific
that he
definition
claimed the
of Coriolis.
definition of Coriolis? Ed, this is sad as
He
shit.
claims a very specific definition. Yes. So again,
Okay,
can you pull up the actual definition, please?
Why?
So we can compare the two.
Can you prove that his definition was wrong?
I did though.
Why do you think
He
I'm
didn't stop
asking him to
talking
pull
to
up
hear
the
it.
definition? No.
Okay, fine. Someone's given a
Huh?
definition. I'll put it on screen for the audience. Who cares? Same as my definition. Mine's better. It's more concise.
So you're changing the definition.
I didn't
Understood.
say a
Thank
thing.
you.
I said mine's better. It's more concise. I've put it up for my audience.
And is that your definition or the actual definition?
That's a definition.
That's not what I asked.
Right,
What's
why
your
are we
point?
discussing
I've
Coriolis
I've
effect?
given three. Hold on, Ed. I've given 3 sources. All I did was type in Coriolis. Gives little graphics of the globe and it explains or defines what it is. So, without further ado, can you
Right,
allow
so can
us
you
to
read out one and compare it to Nathan's edition?
Oh, this isn't my position. Oh, I'm glad you said it that way, finally. Oh, this isn't my position, Ed.
I said edition.
Maybe Fundy mute the point, which is that this isn't my position, Ed. As much as you'd like it to be. It's not my position, it's yours. Look, it's got a globe earth on it. That's definitely not my position, Ed. So, as much as you were hesitant to qualify why this discussion is taking place in regards to Coriolis, it'd be because you have a claim of it, don't you, Ed?
I said your edition, not your position.
Oh, I don't have one. I don't have any requirement whatsoever for
Yeah, you do.
Coriolis effect. It's a globe position I take apart based on the fact we don't see any deviation, so therefore there's no Coriolis effect. And it's claimed to be the proof we spin. We just don't observe it. So therefore it's not a proof we spin, we don't experience it.
Right, but you didn't read the actual
You didn't give us one. I put it up on screen. I
It's
put 3
posted.
different ones up on screen, though, for an audience. They matched mine. As I say, mine's better, because I said it more concisely.
No.
Okay, hand wave. Well, that's wonderful. Meanwhile, it's your
so
claim
you're
we're
changing it
debunking.
to
It's not my
suit
claim
your
that you
narrative?
need to Fundy mute every time I open my mouth to point that out. It's your claim. You claim Coriolis effect on a globe Earth. We don't have that effect. Nothing's drifting away at 15 degrees an hour as I turn beneath it. That doesn't happen.
Come on, Ed. You
Why
asked
is it
for a
he was saying why the
definition.
So you're
wrong?
using your definition and not the definition then?
No, I put a
Elijah
definition on
posted-
screen which matched my definition, and it doesn't happen. We don't experience that. That's the third time I've pointed out that we don't experience your globe claim of Coriolis that we don't have. Definitely not my claim to debunk now, is it? As much as you want to ascribe it to me by saying, well, you're talking about Coriolis, therefore I'm going to be here debunking your understanding of Coriolis, because this is Coriolis debate, as opposed to flat Earth debate.
Ed's afraid to give us his definition.
Right, so
because
can you
he
read
knows
out
it
the
won't match
actual
the ones on
definition
the
then,
screen.
instead
So
of
he's wasting time.
Why?
Yapping
Why
what
would
it
I need to cite it?
says?
Ed, I'm not making a claim of Coriolis, therefore I don't need to back my claim of Coriolis with a citation of what Coriolis is. I'm not claiming it. That's the fifth time I've pointed that out, Ed. What I'd like, before you interrupt me, is for you
Yeah.
to acknowledge
And it's
my
the
response.
fifth time
Before
I
you
told
interrupt
you
me,
you
before
claim a specific definition.
you fundy mute me, I'd like you to acknowledge my response. You've come here to ask me about my definition of Coriolis and how I have cited it and used it. And I've responded, while I can talk about all sorts of things all day long, if I'm not actually making any claims about Coriolis, there's no requirement for me to cite it, Ed. However, there is a requirement for you to cite it and define it, given that you're claiming it on a globe. We just pummel it here. Now, I know you don't like that. You'd prefer it was our claim you could challenge. It isn't. It's your claim we challenge and debunk. Sorry if that offends you.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's not offending me.
Ed is
not
afraid.
deflecting.
Ed is afraid of. This is corny, Ed. Ed.
It
is. This is so corny, bro. Like, you don't even actually want to defend the claim. You want to defend. You want to argue his definition of your claim.
Yes, that's
Do
correct.
you realize how ridiculous that is?
Well, that was the standardised position, Chocolate, up until a while back. The position was to attack a flat earther's comprehension of Coriolis effect, rather than argue about the awkward detail that they don't actually have it. Much easier to challenge our understanding of this effect, and then juxtapose it with the conservation of angular momentum when they don't have that either, and argue about that instead, because they don't actually have any deviation at 15 degrees an hour, which is their claim. So much easier to argue with our understanding and make it our claim, which it isn't. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Provide the definition, the citation that Nathan had on his live stream. So have fun with that, Ed.
Ed Kosho gives a good one.
Ed's a one-trick pony, and every
you guys
time
should
he
just
flips
fuse
the
together
burden of
and-
proof.
Yes, he is a one-trick pony. That's all he's ever got. Flick the burden of proof. Correct.
Absolutely.
Looks like Roy just left them up in the live stream. He didn't come down with it.
Why didn't you just go after your definition and how you defined it? Why didn't you just do that?
Because he's in pain if he defines it. So he's got to play these games. It's too much pain to try to prove something that isn't there.
How Nathan defined it is exactly how it's defined.
and all three of the sources that I provided. He's silly.
I think maybe he just didn't understand the words Nathan was using. I think that's where we're at.
Here, let me give you an
He
example.
needs it to be Nathan's claim.
Correct.
Let me give you.
Needs
Go
to
on,
be
Nathan.
my claim. Correct.
Let me give you an example of an actual event. So I'm talking to this person amidst like a gathering, and there's a lot of people there, and eventually everyone's ears turned towards the conversation. But here was the conversation. It was about Earth rotating or not. And it started out, I mean, this is a normie. And I said, so you believe the Earth is spinning at 15 degrees an hour? He said, yeah. And then I said, so do you believe in the Coriolis argument for it? He says, yeah. And I said, great. So if the Earth is spinning underneath objects, then that would prove it, correct? He says, yeah. And I go, so when you go up in the hot air balloon, why is the Earth not spinning underneath it? Instant brain freeze. He's not a trench guy. The logic was so strong that it just froze him. I said, come on, if the Earth is turning.
Normies can't deal with Coriolis, man. They really can't.
It was epic. It was epic.
I've seen heads spin off of this argument with regular normies who try to dabble into
Yeah, but
this.
he's right. You can't. He's right. They get stuck with that. That's how you stick them, because it makes sense, and they freeze.
But that's a normie who had logic like a stop sign. Say, wait a minute, you do know you're going to break logic if you continue in the vein of argument you were, because here's a logical statement that I'm stopping you. I'm your brain. Listen to me, son. They don't even listen to their own.
Well, what he's trying to do is make you have the positive claim, right? That's the best way to defend it, is make it seem like you have the positive claim and then debunk your claim.
Correct. Same thing's
Yeah,
true
your
with
reference
Earth
frames
curve.
are ruined.
So the same principle is applied to Earth curve, and this has only been verbalized. I can't remember who to give credit to, but somebody, might have been Chocolate, brought it up. So when it comes to seeing too far, as a flat earther, you will hear that a lot. Now, it just used to annoy me, and I'd say, no, don't phrase it that way. But it didn't occur to me why. Well, why? Well, because it's useful to get it to be the positive assertion with a presupposition that's biased towards the globe in the first instance. So if you can get a flat earther to say, this lighthouse can be seen too far away, then you've already got them making an assertion that there's an Earth curve edge that should be in the way but isn't. So then the argument becomes about why you're seeing something that you assume you shouldn't be able to see. And it's the positive claim from the flat earther that it's being seen too far away. Well, that puts not only the flat earther on the back foot, it puts the globe believer in the positive assertion position. Everyone's paradigm is hinging around the begging the question fallacy about how far it should or shouldn't be seen based on a globe. So that's all advantageous to the globe belief. Well, when a flat earther says that, I'm going to start having to point that out. No, it's not too far. You just see it. What do you mean too far?
Unless,
what?
unless like the black swan, you do it in the modus tollens, right, Nathan?
Well, yeah, if you take them through the logic of where they should or shouldn't see it first, they've then got to tie their anchor, or whatever you'd phrase it as, to their physical geometric sphere edge limitation that they formerly thought was going to block boats or buildings or whatever they're going to make as that assertion, the limitation to their geometric view, whatever. But then once you take them through the black swan and they have that logic accepted, well, then they've got nowhere to go when you point out that it's beyond the geometric limitations of their sphere, radius 3959.
But isn't that what we're seeing? Is the minute we say, hey, we'll start off with your presupposition, but we'll do it this way in the modus tollens, because it's tied to something that can be validated or invalidated by this argument, the way it's phrased. We start doing that with everything they say, they're not going to last 2 seconds.
And normies don't, as you keep pointing out. But at trench level, you're dealing with zealotry, not normies.
I don't like that we see too far claim. I hate that.
Me too. Rooted in the presupposition of something getting in the way, and that something is Earth curve.
Exactly. It put you on right on the ball. Same thing as Neil deGrasse Tyson Tyson slapping the thing and say that stuff is flat. It's got you on that heliocentric ball already. Now I got to climb off the ball and start arguing a different way. I hate it.
Same goes for the horizon being bent or not bent. If you talk about it in the terms that Life is Short talks about it, that he's careful phraseology is to say that what makes the vanishing point in the distance, aka the horizon, is your eye level. You know, it could come closer, but it is basically your eye level. That is what it is. So to say the horizon rises to eye level rephrases that in such a way that reifies the horizon as a flat earth into something that should be or shouldn't be bent in physical terms. So when a flat earther says the horizon rises to eye level, it leads the conversation down a path that has both parties arguing about a physical assumption bias regarding the horizon. And it always flows in the favour of the globe. Because then you can start unpacking the positive claim the globe denier or flat earther has made. Well, the horizon's always flat. It always rises to eye level. No, here's my fisheye photography. No, it shouldn't be bent at that altitude anyway. It's like, well, you're arguing about the physical horizon that you're both assuming now.
And then you slip in, well, what do you think the shape of the earth is then, if you're a baller? And at that point...
Perfect. You then got a false dichotomy and reification fallacy with a bias in debate that has both parties reifying the question that's being begged by the globe believer. So he's assuming that there's a sphere edge getting in the way. The question's being asked, why can we see it too far? It's like, well, this conversation's only ever going to go one way, even if you've got a complete drongo fighting for the globe. It's all stacked in their favour. Till the black swan.
Yeah, it's like getting on a plane and arguing with the pilot about where you're going. Well, you're still going where that pilot wants you to go, no matter how much you argue with him. Once you give them that, you know, you're just going where they want to go.
Correct. And the further we get into this, the less interesting the proofsies of a globe or proofsies of a flat earth and their debunkings that are then challenged. That all becomes less and less interesting because it's all a bit samey. Suddenly you start paying attention to how you've been deceived as opposed to the deception. The deception holds no interest for me anymore. Earth's obviously flat. There's no two ways about it. Nothing's going to convince me otherwise. And I can say with 100% certainty that that's always going to be the case. I'm not going to suddenly go, oh, wow, what a silver bullet for the globe. No, it's the outrageous claim that I can't believe I fell for, as opposed to something that, oh, well, might still be true. So from this point on, you go, well, how were we deceived? And you go, oh, Jesus. Along the path of finding out the Earth is flat, you've been led on roads that led you to challenge or debate with people that weren't necessarily very educated in the subject, but still managed to seemingly get a win in the eyes of an audience. How is that possible? Well, because just right down to the magic of your language alone, we still do it when we talk about atmospheric effects. We're using this language that's got spherical bias in it all the time, and that works to the advantage of the person who's arguing that. Now, it might have only taken 100 years to do it, but, you know, like in 1984, if you've got control of the language and you can tell people how to doublespeak, well, then you can change the world, literally.
Well said.
It's like we have things that are just absolute and obvious, and everything about heliocentrism goes against that. Like, oh, we live on a ball, but water needs to be contained. We live in a vacuum, but gas pressure needs to be contained. The horizon is a geometric sphere edge, but we can't really calculate where that is because we have an atmosphere. Come on, bros. Come on, bros. We have Coriolis, but we don't agree with the definitions. Come on, bros. Come on. Come on. I can go all day.
You got to the point where you're like, just cut it out already. Come on. This nonsense.
I'm trying. I'm looking at. I'm talking to the people in the chat, and it's like, in order to not be disrespectful at this point, I just have to stop engaging because what are you gonna do?
That's correct. That's why I get live muted all the time, where I have to shut up. I have to, because they get on your nerves in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, fundamentalist religious zealots are quite irritating.
Yeah, and now that you said that again, I'm sure they'll go in another rant about how they're not in a religion.
Yeah, they
and
are.
Yet they are.
Yeah, they've got the sun at the center of their world. The name of their worship is in the title of their belief, heliocentric.
Yeah, I like walking around my job and telling them, "Oh yeah, you're in a religion," and they laugh at me and tell me, "Ha ha ha! Oh yeah, who's Helios?"
That's right.
They all just look
Helios.
at me.
Got it.
Thank you.
Helios, Ra. You know, what's the other one? Solus.
Who are your planets named for? Who are the planets named for again?
Gods.
All gods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was easier to.
It was easier to look at it, guys. Just to kind of go along with it. They look to the stars as the ancients looked to the gods in the sky to tell them what the earth was about.
Very well put. It was easy to juxtapose this for my 4-year-old. You know, without any bias or telling her what to believe or not believe. I could easily say, some people believe, and then I gave her a Lion King example of what the Lion King told Simba the stars were. And then I told her about gods. Then I told her about planets. They're all bundled together. Well, what are they? Well, they're justifications for what the sky is, called religions. She got it immediately. Okay. So some people think that there's angels up there. Some people think that there's giant rocks. Some people think that there's lions. Okay. Got it. Religion. Okay. What is up there, Daddy? I don't know. That's the end of that conversation.
Yeah, anybody trying to tell you what the stars and the heavenly bodies are, I think that's what qualifies it as a religion.
Yeah. The newest religion just happens to have a model that puts the sun at the center of your world and you rotate around it. And the rest of the existence of your place where you live is bleak and empty. Well, it's just a worldview based on their assumptions that the sky is an empty vacuum, in violation of natural law, I might add. That doesn't mean that that's what the sky is. Oh, but they've got pictures from space. What, the presupposition they're having you believe is a religion? Well, yeah, that's just a magic trick. Look, they're on high wire. It's obvious. That's a trapeze. No, it isn't. They're in space. Okay, well, you're a fundy. What do you want? I give up. Okay? The lights in the sky are actually rocks falling around other rocks. Okay, whatever. Or they're lions. Whatever you prefer.
I got a quote for you, Nathan. It's out of the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And this is, "In our world, said Eustace, a star is a huge ball of flaming gas. Even in your world, my son, that is not what a star is, but only what it is made of." It doesn't tell you what a star is. Even if you can determine what it's made of, it doesn't tell you what it really is.
Indeed.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Brian. You came up in conversation earlier when we were asking about the distance to the sun. I was like, oh, if they don't have our values to calculate astronomical units, that leaves Einstein a bit buggered, doesn't it?
Yeah. You know what? You know what we deal with? We deal with people who, for 6 years, have been trying to have an interpersonal debate with us when we're talking about the nature of our world. They're trying to have an interpersonal debate with us concerning their belief. They're not even on the same page as us. We're talking fundamentally about where we live and what it is, and they're talking about how we're wrong because they have a belief, and us saying what we're saying is causing their belief problems. So they have a personal problem with us. You know what I mean? There's no conversation.
Sounds more like they
There's
have a
never been
personal problem with their belief. That's what that sounds like.
Well.
Because if you didn't have a problem with your belief, then you wouldn't have any problem with me not agreeing with your belief. That's why I ask people when they get all snippy. I'm just like, but why all the feelings? I don't get it. We're talking objectively, aren't we? Why do you have feelings? Because I don't think the floor is a ball, so now you think I shouldn't exist or something? I don't understand.
Even Christians don't go into like atheist servers day in, day out, or other religious servers. Like
exactly,
like,
you let them rock, right?
Not true. That's not true.
Exactly.
That's not true.
Well, maybe for the most part, it's not true. There always will be those that just seek to just, be a troll. But for the most part, people aren't doing that, I don't think. Huh?
Well, I think the big difference is that anyone who does do something like that, now the ballers are obviously the most massive example of this, are people who won't accept that what they have is only a belief. You can't support it as a proof. You can support it as a belief only, right? So they are in a position where they can't accept that they only have a belief. It was that engineer. There was a video an engineer guy brought out. He works for an engineering company. I don't know if he's something to do with engineering, and a lad in Northern England. And he brought out a video how when he actually tested the globe, because he heard about this and he said he tested, test what he could find out from an engineering point of view, and he said no, it's not a globe, and he said you just have a belief. That's not verbatim, but that's basically what he said. He said you just have a belief. I thought it was a globe too till I tested it, and now I can't find any evidence. He said. And he said it's just a belief. It's fine, you can have a belief, but it's just a belief. But these people, like Ed will not accept that what he has is a belief and not proof, evidence, and knowing. That's the problem. So they're not even listening to our argument. Our argument doesn't matter, or the fundamentals of our argument, which is we're talking about the nature of our world. They're not even there. They're mentally not there.
And it's so bad that he comes in and doesn't even want to argue about the actual argument. He wants to argue about the definition of what the argument should be.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's interpersonal nonsense. Instead of dealing with the actual, do we see this drift? No. So that's not there. You know what I mean?
But where did he go? Because again, he asked for something to be done. His demand was met. He posted 3 sources. They basically say what Nathan said, and he's gone.
As long as he can keep from making a claim, right, and he's just attacking what you say it is, then in his mind, he can keep it as a globe.
Well, see, there you go. He's trying to have an interpersonal problem debate with Nathan. Something that has that means absolutely nothing. There's no progress involved. But yet that's what he wants to have, because Nathan is pointing out that his belief is only a belief and not a knowing, not a proof, not an evidence. It's just a belief. And he's pointing out, do we see 15 degree an hour drift of anything? No, so it's not there. Very simple. It's just basic, simple logic. But logic is no good when you have a belief. I believe things, but I can't prove them. So I'm not going to have an argument with someone because they say, something logical that gets in the way of my belief. What can I do? You know, I have to accept I believe it. Until there's proof, it can only be that.
You asking me something?
No, I was just stating that you just point out very logically that there isn't 15 degrees an hour drift. And that's that. And Ed wants to have an interpersonal argument with you about the definition you use of Coriolis. You know, because he doesn't even understand that what he's talking about is globiolus and not Coriolis. And that's what he's going to come at you with. And he's going to start telling you how you won't see drift, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's... You
Yeah,
give him 5 minutes and that's what he'll be telling you.
Yeah. Your definition of Coriolis is that you'll see drift. Well, that's not Coriolis. And like you say, he'll substitute it for globiolus effect. And then we'll have me having to defend that Coriolis is actually Coriolis as a positive assertion that I need not make because I'm not making any claims about it, while he simultaneously substitutes that very effect that I've defined perfectly with his effect, which isn't the same.
Well, I was told by Kumu Virus to get in chat. I mean, I'm here. I provided the sources, so what's up, bucko? Did you want to say something to me or something?
Don't waste your time with him.
I mean, it is a show. The show must go on.
I don't see him.
Yeah, I guess you're right. If he wants to get smacked around a little more, he could come in.
I want to hear
what to say. Sorry, John, go on.
I was going to say I wanted to hear Kumu Virus go into conservation of angular momentum again.
Oh, you want to use your rebuttal, right? Fair enough.
He wouldn't dare.
Well, you can't even get to conservation of angular momentum. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. I keep interrupting you, buddy. I'm sorry.
All right, sorry. It's just the way timing is going. This happens, isn't it? Nathan, at the moment, right? If I claimed that you were rotating, seeing a spot on the ceiling move around because you're moving around, if I claimed that and you just pointed out that you're not moving, and then I pointed out that you were moving but you don't notice it, I mean, and then you said, no, I'm not moving. And then I said, give me your definition of Coriolis. I mean, what do you do with that?
It depends. I lost track. Were you making the positive claim that you are turning beneath the dot that you see moving, implying that you are actually on a roundabout or whatever?
Yeah, no, I'm implying that you're rotating. You're telling me you're not. Then I'm telling you, and you're telling me you're not rotating because you would see this if you were. And I'm telling you that you are rotating, but you wouldn't notice it.
I see. Yes,
That's
correct.
what
I see.
I'm claiming.
So to summarise, what you're saying is their claim is that the 15 degrees an hour deviation you would observe if we were turning underneath as is claimed. That's thrown to the wayside, and the initial gambit is to say this spot on the ceiling that isn't moving because I beg the question that we're turning beneath it, but it displays no effect.
Yeah, and it's at this point that I want to have an argument with you about the definition of what rotating in a chair is and or not rotating in a chair is.
Right. Should I summarise Coriolis? I've got an audience, so I might as well. So, to example Coriolis would be to have you on a roundabout. The effect will always be you observing the effect. So it's you on a roundabout turning beneath anything else that's not on the roundabout. For example, a tree branch. So the tree branch hangs over the top of the roundabout. Now, as you move towards the tree branch, it looks like the tree branch comes towards you. Now, that effect is very much a real effect. That is to say that as you turn beneath the branch, if it was low enough, you would hit it. So it's a very real effect. The reason it's described as a not actual deflection is because you're describing how the branch moves. And the branch doesn't move. You turn beneath the branch, causing it to look like it moves. Now that looking like the branch is moving is Coriolis deflection. And it's caused by you turning beneath it. So likewise, you're on the same roundabout, but this time you're going to look at an aeroplane in the sky. Now as you turn on the roundabout, looking at the plane, from your vantage point, the plane turns around in the air. It was going one way, then it's going the other. Now that plane hasn't actually turned around. You've turned beneath it. So it's the not actual deflection caused by you turning beneath things. Therefore, for Earth to have Coriolis effect, you have to observe things deflecting because you're turning beneath them. And we don't observe that effect. Nothing drifts because we're turning beneath it. We're not turning beneath things. Debunking the claim and necessitating fundies from the globe side of the argument to defend why we don't see the effect. The effect being 15 degrees an hour drift as we turn beneath things, which we don't observe, so they defend why we don't observe it rather than defending the claim that we do.
Nathan, I have a question about the Coriolis situation. And of course, it's not actually happening in the world because we're stationary. But I've always been very puzzled as to why there's such a thing as Coriolis force if it's not an actual and only apparent thing that's happening. Why do they call it Coriolis force? Why is it officially Coriolis force?
As you rotate beneath the tree and you smack into the tree, I'll be careful with my phrasing. So you turn beneath the tree and smack into the branch. The Coriolis force of the branch moving towards you would be the not actual effect of Coriolis exhibiting a force. So it's a not actual force. Why? Because the branch didn't come towards you and smack you. You moved towards it.
So it's kind of like gravity. It's not actually a force, but you can think of it as a force.
You can.
Why do they call it Coriolis force, though? Then
you can think of it.
Seems so nonsensical.
Well, you can think of it as the tree coming towards you and hitting you. Oh no, the tree's coming towards me. Bang! Oh no, I'm going to think of that as the tree, which is stationary, moving towards me. No, mate. The tree's rooted into the ground and not moving at all. You move towards it. That's the Coriolis force that you experienced.
Yeah, but we don't actually experience it. It's just another way to describe something that in actuality, admittedly so, is not happening. It just seems to happen. Why would you designate something that only seems to happen from a perspective a force? When force actually implies a physical thing that happens.
Because well, that's a good question. I asked Paula because it's in the definition, which made no sense to me at first, but now makes perfect sense. Your reference frame in Coriolis effect is non-inertial. That is to say that from your point of view, you and the ground you're attached to isn't moving. So it's a non-inertial turning reference frame. Sounds counterintuitive, right? No. If you're on that roundabout and you're having a picnic, for the sake of argument, and you move the sandwiches around on the roundabout and you eat the sandwiches on the roundabout, none of the sandwiches are flying away. You're just picking them up off the roundabout because your frame of reference locally to you is not moving. The ground beneath your feet stationary. Right? In reference to you, you're both moving together. Therefore, the frame of reference you are experiencing is non-inertial, and what you're experiencing as a not actual force is happening in an inertial reference frame. In other words, you're experiencing the tree moving, a not actual effect from a non-inertial reference frame. So your reference frame is from your position, not moving, and stuff around you seems to move. Make sense?
Almost. It's still, though, the whole thing, and even how you describe it, it seems to focus on a misinterpretation of the mind observing something when there is actual displacement happening. It's you, and you are the thing that is causing the force that will make things smack into your face because you're rotating underneath it, etc., etc. So it just seems like, oh, there is a Coriolis force, but no, nothing about the experience that is described as Coriolis actually has forces applied to it. It's purely a perspective thing, a conceptual, a relative thing.
That's correct.
I think
that's correct. That's correct, Darwin. Yes. In terms of the description, your frame of reference is not inertial. It's non-moving. It's a non-inertial reference frame that you're experiencing and describing things that seem to move but don't. Therefore, there is no force involved in that description. You're describing the not actual effect of the tree smacking into you. Doesn't mean you're not going to smack into the tree. It doesn't mean that the cause isn't because there's motion in the roundabout, because the effect you're describing is the effect of the tree coming towards you in Coriolis effect.
Right, but it's a perspective thing. It's because of the observer interpreting it inverse, like the other way around of what it really is, because of the self-centric observation vantage point, I guess.
Correct.
But that means that none of anything that is
correct.
Coriolis is actually physically real. It's only the perception.
Correct. It's from your reference frame, from your vantage point. You can only watch something seem to drift as you turn beneath it if you're describing Coriolis. So yes, it's your perception of something drifting towards you, drifting away from you, curving, whatever. When it's actually moving in a straight line, not moving at all, you're turning beneath it. So it's just your perception. Correct, Darwin?
That's so odd. Why would they then call it a force and not just stick to deviation? Because deviation can be apparent.
You can describe it both ways, and it is.
Because you can think of it like a force.
Right, so why not make things a little bit more confusing, like with gravity? It seems.
I think it
Because
became
you got to try to convince people, a population of people that live on a flat stationary plane that experience that every day. You have to convince them that they live on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum. So of course you have to make it confusing, Arwin. Come on, you know this.
I think it became a force, Arwin, when it started doing two things. When they started bringing in, first of all, the conservation of angular momentum, and then how it causes hurricanes and cyclones or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that they started changing it to being a force maybe then.
Can I just get an address from John in that regard, if he's still around? Probably. Go on.
Yeah. No, I'm still here.
Do you want to repeat that as a positive claim, Brian? And then hopefully we'll get a response from John, and then I'll round out.
Yep. Okay, Nathan. That the Coriolis effect became known as the Coriolis force after they started turning it into the conservation of angular momentum and saying that it causes hurricanes and cyclones.
How do you calculate conservation of angular momentum?
With radians?
We'll need to measure a radial value.
But conservation of angular momentum is actual deviation.
Hold on. Don't let John's point get lost in the weeds here. It's calculated how, Brian? You got it once. Just repeat the answer.
With radians?
Radians, you say?
Nathan.
Everybody whisper together. Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Right. But I just think personally, if I may, for the last round out, I really think that the Coriolis force, even calling it that, is actually kind of fraudulent. It should be scrapped. Because it's misleading to call it as Coriolis force. And there's no need to call it a Coriolis force except to fool people.
Perhaps. Certainly describable both ways. There's no necessity to call it a force when it's not a force. It's an apparent deflection caused as you turn beneath things on a non-inertial turning reference frame. Beneath an inertial reference frame. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, or becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!